assume it's starting now. Hey guys, so I'm just gonna go through how to rig a character from scratch with this female character. So I sent you guys the model. I just did a one little difference in that I kind of changed the hand because the ones that we had before looked something like this. So I just kind of erased that so it looks more natural. So the aim of rigging is basically to get every part to move without us having to redraw any part. So you know the assignment says we want you to get the character to walk, to run, to jump, and to do an idle pose. So let's go through rigging. So right here on this side is our timeline, which shows all our different layers like hand, eye, ear, mouth, head, hair, arm, skirt, thigh, leg, torso, neck, thigh 1, leg 1, hand, and arm 1. Probably some of those could be renamed, but they're basically, well, majority of it is layered for you properly. I think there are some others. When you're animating, you'll actually see the different layers. So even if you start animating and you find that the layers are kind of strange, you can just change them where they need to be and just leave the animation, provided your animation is good. Alright, so let's begin the rigging. So rigging basically is a combination of parenting and layering, as well as some other tools that you can use. Particularly, we're going to be using the rigging tool, which
the wrench,
where with that hammer and that wrench.
hammer and thingy, whatever that is.
That's Danik. Say hi, Danik.
Hi.
Okay, cool. So I guess the first thing we want to do is just make sure that our groups are okay. I guess for the first part, one part that we'll not be using the rigging tool is the head, because the head is just, well, here. You notice as I click on the head with the transform tool, it pops up purple. And you see that the eye, the ear, the lips, and the hair at the back here is not attached. What we want to do is we want all the other parts that we clicked on to be children of the head. So you'll actually have to go to your node view over here. So right now we're seeing the hierarchy of our layers. It's kind of spread up across so that you know that they're all, their own individual layers. So for example, parenting works like this. Anything that goes up to the bottom of a layer, at this node, is going to be the child of that node. Anything that goes from the top to the bottom of something, this becomes a child of it. So for example, for the head, we wanted the mouth, the ear, the eye, and the hair to be children of it. That way, whenever we move the head, we don't have to worry about, well, moving these along with it. So parenting basically allows you to have a layer share your transformation information like scale, rotate, translate. All right, so here's the head. And if we wanted the hair to move along with it, we did a pull from the top of the hair to the bottom of the head. And you notice that pops up yellow. So whenever we click on the head, hair also gets selected along with it. So because we want the hair to kind of work with follow through, I'm not going to do it directly for that one. So for the mouth, the eyes, and the others, so mouth, ear, and eye. Once you click on the head, you'll notice these are also highlighted in yellow. I guess you could say when it's yellow, it means that it's a child of something. So if we move the head, and you'll notice I have a pivot point there for this. If we move all this, they all move together. Don't worry about the hair for now, we'll fix that later. So we primarily want to use the rigging tool, so it makes life a little easier for us. Well, it hopefully makes life easier for you. So rigging tool works simply like this. It allows you to create joints for a drawing, so that in case you're working like creating a skeletal structure for a character, such as this one, you don't have to worry about touching the drawings. You just need to move the, you could call it the armature of the rig. So for example, we have an arm here, this arm. If I go on the rigging tool, I get this little icon here. I just click where I want my, you could say my joints to be. So for the Joints for an arm, you think elbow, shoulder, elbow, and wrist. So we click here, and you see the bone come up already. And we click somewhere down here, and that will be our joint. So we have two bones in this arm, and over here in my node view, you'll see a deformation that pops up. It shows you bone and bone one. So that's just a group showing you what's happening in the ring. So right here, you're seeing this big circle. This actually has to do with the radius of the bone. If I bend it as it is now with the transform tool, you'll get this somewhat of a hose going on here. So if you need to edit this radius, just go back to the rigging tool, reduce it, and in the transform tool, you'll see it looks more like an angled joint, right? So this basically controls the sharpness of your bone. So if you had a really big radius, like so, what you end up getting is something like this. And I guess that looks kind of funny.
Rubber.
And rubber. So yeah, rubber hose kind of joints.
Rubber characters.
So we got that down for an arm. I'll do the same thing with the hand. Hand is over here. I'm probably gonna have to relayer them afterwards, but right now we're still seeing our previous joint. We don't want to because we don't want to accidentally click on this and continue it. So we'll click on this icon here, show the selected deformation chain and hide all others, and show the controls of the selected drawing. So we just click on this, it hides the joint that was there before, and for the hand we just make a simple joint, same kind of move. So click, click, and click. What I'm going to do is leave the radius this big, because whenever we move it, we kind of want it to move something like this. Not too much, because it's not like we need individual fingers. We don't want the drawing to be too deformed when we're using. So I will just remove my keyframes so that everything goes back into default position. Now, right now, if I, for example, go on the deformation of my arm and move the arm, you'll notice that the hand is still there down here. We need to parent this deformation to this one. So let me just do one thing. Yes.
How do I get rid of that line? This line is automatically.
Interesting. Give me a second, son, something.
You can ask questions during.
Yes, you can. Alright, so wait, did you edit? Did you edit it on? I can't pause. I just pause it up afterwards. Edit it in post. Let's see. Show what is
The rigging tool up top. The hammer and the screw thingy.
Oh.
So we're going to move on to kinematic output now.
Yeah. Let's remove the keyframes.
Up top.
Alright, coming back. I'm just gonna fix this up a little bit. So let me just do this one more time. Click, and
use
click.
1 and 2 to zoom in and out.
And I also use this like so.
And use
and we're good.
if you want to like scroll from one side to the next.
All right, so here is our node view again. We have the deformation for the arm, and we have one for the hand. We need to get these two to parent. But you wouldn't parent deformation the same way you would like we did with the head and the eyes and the other parts. Reason being, this is what will happen. So I'll just kind of show you. So let's say we have this. Yes, I'll save my word. So let's say you have deformation for the arm and the hand. If I showed what our deformation says, you notice that this is over here, which is weird. We don't want this to happen because whenever you parent a deformation directly to another deformation, it kind of throws off your origin point for the child. So we need to create what's called a kinematic output. So in the node library, you can go to the deformation group, and then you look for kinematic output. So all you need to do is just drag this over here and just check this out. So we're still seeing this. You're going to basically get the deformation to filter through from the arm through the kinematic output and then the kinematic output to the hand. And that way, when we move the arm itself, the hand moves along with it. Right? So that works.
And you just drag it or you double click it. You drag it, right?
You have to see both your node view and your node library.
How do I do that?
So if you want to bring up your view somewhere else, yeah, you can actually go to the top. So for those who might be having difficulty trying to do the node library to the node view, let's say for example you didn't have a node view and you had them both in the same place, like
I figured it out.
node view, node library, you could actually just drag this to over here and you're good. So node view, node library, and you're good. Alright, so we've done that for the arm and the hand.
So you connect both deformations with the kinematic output, right?
So arm goes down to the kinematic output. The deformation goes down to the kinematic output, which comes through so arm to the kinematic output, and then kinematic output to the hand. So you could say it's almost like parenting, just like we did before. It's just that you have the kinematic output going between them, like so.
That is between two of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we've done that for the arm and the hand. The thing is, we have another set of arm and hand. So we have them over here. We might think we have to do another deformation for those, but just to be efficient, what we will do instead is we will select these nodes, the arm, the kinematic output, and the hand, and we're going to duplicate these nodes so that they kind of work for the others. So once you select your nodes that you want to duplicate, you click on this little icon here, choose nodes, and choose duplicate selected nodes. And so I'll just zoom out a bit and drag these over to where the hand and the arm are. And so what I'll just do is put the deformation in their respective drawings. So that one goes there and this one goes here. So that is how you duplicate nodes. So I'll just do that one more time. Even though you could just scroll back and watch it again. So highlight these. Click on this icon here.
It's supposed to happen.
That is weird.
That's happening.
Oh, you're in edit mode. I know why. You're in edit mode. So when you're in edit mode, it does that. So you have to go to transform mode. So nodes, duplicate selected nodes. And we're only duplicating the deformation, the kinematic output, and the other deformation.
So first of all, you highlight the ones that you want to duplicate, right?
Yep. So you don't need to duplicate the drawings, just duplicate the deformation groups and the kinematic output.
Highlight.
Not the arms, not those, just the deformation stuff.
This.
Yeah, those three.
This one and for Maki would be following the all.
We can just command, I believe. You can actually just drag a box over them.
Drag a box over?
Just go like so. It's easier. Yep.
And then duplicate.
No, it's that little right over here,
Up here?
top, right here.
In here?
Yeah, click that. Note, duplicate. Selected note. Down there. Up.
Oh, duplicate selected nodes.
Yep. And then drag that over to where the other arm and hand is. And just attach those. So hand to hand and arm to arm. Alright, so now we have two deformation rigs going on for us. So that makes life easier. The next one we want to work on is the thigh and the leg. So for the thigh drawing and the leg drawing, so they look like. This is the leg, and this is the thigh. Big chicken legs, yes, I know. Big chicken legs. So what we'll have to do to kind of see, we're gonna have to hide the skirt. Sorry, ladies who were offended. So A and D. A basically allows your drawings to appear, and D to disappear, or enable disable. So this is what our leg looks like. She's like in a leotard looking thing now. So for the leg, we do the same thing. But in this case, I'm actually going to be showing you a different kind of deformation, which might work better for this thigh. I mean, we tried it with a bone. So with the same rigging tool, so far what we've done was just click. Whenever you click, you make straight lines. So for example, if we did click, 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 we make straight lines with bones. If we click and drag instead, we'll make curves. So for the thigh, we'll actually do a curve. Don't ask me why. It just looks nicer. Don't ask me why. It just looks nicer. Alright, so we just click and drag from here, coming down, and we click next to where we want it to end, but we'll be going up. So here, and click from here, going upward. Reason why you don't want to click downward, because your lines end up looking something like this. So we go back up.
So you click down to here, and then you click again.
Yeah, from the bottom where you want it to end up,
Let go.
and click from there, going up. Go up. Go up. Yeah, not that high. Not that high. Just like not even as close as that. Just like somewhere. Come down a bit more. Yeah, about there. I mean, you can come back and line it up. Yeah, but that's good. So what we have now is a deformation looks something like this. Right? Kind of works a little better probably. So what we're gonna do next is for the leg. Now our leg drawing actually has from the knee coming down to the ankles, and then just imagine a toe bone. So
I'm not able to rotate.
drag those nodes.
Like these now?
Yes.
What is that?
I think you added an extra part, so I'm gonna have to undo. And yeah, you only need 2 points. Undo again. You still have it. Alright, so let's try again. Rigging 2.
That one is
We
there.
can.
Here.
That feels like a bone. Undo again. Yeah. Alright, now you can drag. Yeah, good. And come down and drag up to it. About there. It doesn't really so close. Yeah. But this is good. Transform tool actually shows you. So if you move it, just undo it afterwards and just say ABC note, it works. So you have to grab those little notes. Yes.
Okay.
Alright, so for the leg now, we have all of this. We're just gonna use the bone. So click on that leg. Well,
We're moving on to leg now. Leg 1.
I don't know which one. The one that's close to us. Yeah. So leg, no, well, there's thigh and leg 1.
It's leg.
Yeah. Thigh and leg. So we're gonna hide that one again. And just focus on the leg. So click.
Oh, the same thing again?
Yeah. We're just gonna click this time. This time we're gonna do using bones because it's easier to control that way. Click so here and then come for the toes. Click, click. And we don't have to make this radius this big. And just to test it out, we can. So I just want to see what this looks like when it's stretched. So that looks relatively okay. when it's pointing downward. So those of you who wear high heels, this is dangerous. Just saying. So I'm just gonna undo that, and we got that leg down. So the same thing that applies with the arm and the hand is the same thing we're gonna do with the thigh and the leg. We're gonna need another kinematic output. So back to the node library. Yes, I'll save my work. Deformation group, kinematic output. So let's see what this looks like if we attach it directly. Both these, show them both. If we slid this here, it gets thrown off, as you can see, but we're going to slide the kinematic output right through it, and we get that. So we can move the thigh, and you see the leg is kind of attached also, so that's good for us. That bend doesn't look too terrible, although technically it does. Recording. This is what my class is like.
Can we go back to the leg, please?
So doing the leg one more time.
Yes, thank you. So we click here.
So for the leg, let's say we start from where the knee is. So click, come down to where the ankle, the ankle would be somewhere around it. No, just click.
Okay.
And then we go where we expect our toe bones to be. So we click again, and we just make the toe. And we also make the radius this big, so we just reduce that. This one can probably stay because, I mean, it bends. It looks good when it stretches this way. So we just test it and undo. And because we want to parent the leg and the thigh together, we want the thigh to be in charge of the leg, we don't do this directly. As you will see, looks like this. So we'll just get from the node library or kinematic output, hold on Alt, and you can actually just slide it in, and we get that. So if you wanted to control the entire leg, you have the offset there from the curve, which is this is a curve. So if you grab this, you can control the entire leg. If you want to rotate, you can just grab that little handle at the top. And if anything, you need to do some little tweaks to how it looks, you can always grab this, how you need.
You put a kinematic output between the thigh and the leg.
Yeah. So we have that now. So the next thing we want to work on is the torso, and then the neck. And I mean, the head is already done. So next is the torso. So the torso basically controls the upper body, but you need to know that based on the human anatomy, your torso kind of sits on your hip. So we're actually going upward with this one, rather than clicking from the shoulders coming down to the hip. We're going to go from the hip up. So you could do two things. You could use a curve to control the hip, or you could use a bone.
Let's try the curve, because the hip kind of goes in a curve kind of way.
Yeah. So we'll try both. So we click on the torso. Let's hide everything else. I made a shortcut. Those of you who want to know to make a shortcut for that key, I use the tilde or the little backwards apostrophe. So I don't know. You know the one, that key that is right below the escape key. So preferences, I just did this. Preferences, deformation, and where it says show current deformers, that by default does not have its own shortcut. And I mean, since this key is free, I mean, you can think of it as the tilde for Spanish. You click that, that's the key you get, and you just press OK. Let's just save because that thing's going to pop up. So I'm just going to hide the arm for now. So D. So let's focus on the torso. I'll hide this thigh also. D. I can hide the hand too. D. So let's focus on just this. So just to kind of show you, rigging tool again. So if you're doing it with a bone, I recommend doing it like this. Just have one bone that kind of just sits in place, and then control everything else afterwards. So just watch this. You click, and then you probably click again, and probably have one like this. And so we just increase the radius so that when they bend, it doesn't look too angled. So we get something like this. So we can bend this like so, or we can bend this like so. And it kind of sits in place, you know, like if she bent over her back, at least we have this that looks fairly natural. Right? I kind of like how this looks, so I'm not going to delete this deformation right off the bat. I'm going to add a different kind of transformation to it, because you can actually add different types of transformation or rigs to one drawing. For example, you could have an arm that works with both bones and curves. I'm just going to show you how to do that just for the sake of knowledge. So right now we have this selected torso.
This is how it would seem.
Yeah, so you might have to increase your radius. Okay. So when edit mode.
Okay.
Yeah. And okay, you have a lot of them.
Some of them?
I only have two, like two. I mean, you don't have to have too much. If you're okay with using all those, I mean, the more bones you have is the more control you have. But that just probably depending on if you have to move them, that might slow down your work time. So okay. So I'm just gonna press this button here that says create new deformation chain. Click that, or bone one kind of seems to disappear. Because they're already large enough, that's why. You don't want to be able to do that if you space them out. So you have to actually grab the square that you see there and drag it. Or you might have to adjust the ones at the top. So you see that, you can readjust. So rigging tool again. I'm just going to show you why I normally recommend using only 2 points for a curve is because it's easier to control. So let's say, for example, we click this like so. Just working with the spine, click from here and click from here like so. And so we get control over this by playing with these. So why I didn't use the curve is because sometimes, you know, the way this moves doesn't seem to kind of match how we want this to work. So, and plus, you know, her bosom here kind of gets deformed and shrinks and gets all pointy, which is kind of weird. So I will kind of work with the other one, but just so you know,
how does this look?
Just to switch back to the previous one, I'll click on the drawing. You'll see it says transformation 2 and we have transformation 1. Transformation 1 means the first one we had, and transformation 2 is the other one. So yeah, you can like kind of switch. As for using them alternately throughout the timeline, I'm yet to figure that out completely.
So after we do this, you make a curve with them so that they form one thing. That's what you did? After we have them like this, you have a curve. I saw where there was like a single curve.
Yeah, I made a curve depending on how you want to control it. So yeah, I had clicked from here, dragging this way, and then click from up here, dragging down to make the other deformation. So that's what this looks like. Only problem is that when we deform it, it kind of messes up our drawing a bit. So based on where this handle is, you can kind of control stuff up to a point. But I guess if you had more curves, it kind of becomes a bit more tedious because, for example, let's say I had another curve. Let's say in edit mode, I would do something like, let's say this and this, and then up here, like how we had the bone. Only problem I would have is, and let me just kind of put this back in its reset mode. So I would kind of get something like this, which I don't really want to have to mess around with this and this at the same time. I mean, this might be good for like cartoony effect, like some delayed reaction, but so that's that. And inside the deformation chain group, you'll actually see 2 and 1, and inside is a switch. So
Switch?
yeah, they have a switch.
Alright, so
But don't worry about that.
after we have all of these, what was the next thing we did? After we have these.
Yeah, that's all.
That's all?
Yeah, if you're doing one of them. I was just showing you the other way of doing it. So I would prefer not to have another deformation chain. So I would just actually go in here and get rid of the switch and get rid of number 2 because number 2. Yeah, take a picture. Back to the out. My laptop has no. Okay, there we go. Let's make sure I can move this. All right, we're good. So the next thing is the neck. So the neck is a simple piece. It kind of just has a single curve. So we would just use a curve deformer on that for the neck. So the neck is actually, where is it? Right here, right beside the torso drawing. So just to show the neck, this is what it looks like in the drawing view. It looks like a little bone or something. All that's in the neck? That's all, yeah, all that's in the neck. I mean, it might not all be necessary, but I'll start from the base and go up, because you know, spine's going upward. So click and drag this way, and drag this way. You would even use one gigantic bone to control this, but we'll stick with this. This is fine.
From the very end of the neck to the top of the neck?
Yeah, from the where the collarbone will be to the head.
Let me just collarbone about right there.
Yeah. So you can drag upward.
Drag upward to about right there.
Yep. And probably where the ear is or a little below. Yeah, about that. You drag downish. Down. Well, not that far down. You know. Yeah. And that's your neck. So because we know that the neck is going to be a child of the torso, because that's how your body works. If you bend the torso, your neck kind of just follows. It doesn't just break off and not follow. Example. Real body does not work like this, where we bend this piece and nothing follows. So when we bend the torso, we want the neck to follow. So just like the arm and the hand and the leg and the thigh, we do the same thing. So we can just copy this kinematic output, Control C or Command C, Control V, Command V. Have the torso be parent to the neck, and we kinematic output them between. So what we get now with the torso is something like this. So if we bend this, that follows. So you know the next thing that we need is the head, because you know the head just kind of needs to follow this. So the next piece is the head.
So we create a kinematic output between the torso and the neck, that's what you're saying?
Yes. So kinematic output between torso and neck. So you can probably guess what comes next for the neck to the head. We're going to have another kinematic output from the neck to the head, because we could easily make the neck apparent to the head just like that. But this is what happens whenever we start deforming the neck. The head kind of does that. And we don't want this, right? Obviously, that's not what we want. We want that whenever we move the neck, the head still maintains its shape. So another kinematic output between the neck and the head. So neck. Just grab another kinematic output. I already copied it before, so I'll just press paste again. Alt and slide that in. And so whenever we do something like this, we get the head in place, right? Undo. So the second to last piece remaining, you can assume, is the hair. The last piece is the skirt. So I'm just gonna bring these back. Bring in the arm and the skirt and the thigh back. You know, it's funny, we haven't even copied the leg and the thigh deformation. So let's just borrow those quickly. These three. Duplicate nodes. Duplicate selected nodes. Drag this over here. Thigh to thigh, leg to leg. And our networks now looks like something like this. I mean, before you might think, if you saw something like this, oh my goodness, how am I going to handle this? But we're going along steadily. It might not look like this, yeah. So, leg, thigh. Oh, you have neck. Wait, your neck is detached. Wait, I think your neck is. Oh wait. Oh wait. Neck to. So. Also goes into that. No, no, don't pick it up. This is from here.
Oh.
Just one, two. So you know you have the offset, you can rotate it from there.
Oh, you use this.
Yeah. So what's cool about the curve is that we can do this. Whee!
Yes.
We won't want to do that anyways. So the next thing is the hair. As we said before, we want the hair to kind of do a follow through if you're doing it that way. We don't want to attach the hair directly to the head. Well, we could. Technically, we could. But what I want to show you is just adding a peg. We want the hair to kind of have its own parent before it connects to the head. So I'm going to add a peg to this piece of hair. So to add a peg, you click on the drawing layer, and you can easily press Ctrl P. Or if you're working with just straight layers, you click on this button here, which is the Add Peg button. So I need to kind of drag that from there to up here.
Oh, you just drag the peg?
Oh, it's down there by the composite.
Oh, it's
yeah, it pops up normally there.
Okay.
You have two here. You had two, okay.
Okay,
And then you wanna,
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that goes there and this goes here. One thing you have to make sure is that you set your pivot point for your peg. Although the drawing itself has its own pivot, what we can do is get the peg to kind of have that same pivot. So in the layer properties, you can click on this little yellow box.
For the peg?
For the hair drawing, the blue one.
This?
At the bottom, you'll see it say drawing pivot. Use embedded pivot, and it says apply embedded pivot on drawing layer. Okay. We're going to choose on the parent peg. So if you click on that,
apply embedded pivot on drawing layer.
On parent peg. And you just close.
So Control P, right?
Yeah, Control P. Or well, we use Command P. Sorry, Mac. Some people are using Mac. So we got that. So if we want to do our little follow through, you know, we have this. We can do that. We can squash. I mean, at least, you know, we don't have to worry about the drawing itself. Okay. So I guess we're mostly good. The only thing left now is the skirt. And we're basically going to be done.
How do I get to see all my different nodes and circles and things?
You get to see nodes and such?
Like what you have on the board.
Oh, whoops. Yeah, whatever you select on, it's going to show you all of them. So if you came to your nodes, you press Control A. Let's say you go into your node view, press Control A or Command A for you, I guess. Select all.
Here.
Right here.
Yeah, in that view.
Command A.
And press that little button there that shows and hides. There's that one. We'll show you what your view looks like.
Thank you.
So it looks confusing, but that's why you would want to see them one by one. So, poof. Alright, so we're almost done. The only thing left is the skirt and then one peg that controls everything that doesn't have a parent. So, with the skirt, we're going to be using what's called the envelope deformer. It works kind of like the curves, except you'll notice that when you have a curve, it has an offset that you can control the entire curve. So here is the skirt. You might think, okay, why not just use a single curve on the skirt? Well, because this could happen. Let's say we did that. We just something like this. That's fine, right? But when your character starts walking, this part's going to be more, you know, like tensile strength. It's going to actually stretch. So we don't want to just have this alone. We want to have some width and such. So we're not going to use a curve just like that. So you go on your rigging tool, and in your tool properties, you'll see the different modes. What we've been using so far is automatic mode. So automatic mode basically alters between the bone and the curve. So whenever you click, it does bones, and whenever you click drag, it does curves. But envelope, we're just gonna do this. So far what we have is these deformation here. So we have the arm, thigh, torso, arm. I think one of these thighs needs to go beneath the torso. I mean above. All right, so here we go. Envelope mode and click on the skirt drawing. So just watch what I'm doing first, I guess, those of you in the class. So I'm just gonna click and drag. If you remember using Illustrator, it's kind of like using the pen tool. So let's say we start there, and I'll just have one as a, even that one, yeah. Right, do one here, and then I just come straight down. I just use it as a pin, so it's attached here. So whenever we're moving, we don't have to worry about moving this so much. So we have one down here, and because I want to come over here, I'm just gonna click this side and click and put it towards where it's coming from. Although you'll notice this curve looks kind of odd, so just like in Illustrator or Photoshop using the pen tool, you can use Alt and break your curves. If needs to be, you can adjust. And I guess we can come up here. Whoops, go back to the last one. Click here, come down, Alt and break this up, and come back to her waist, I guess. Come here, bring this down, and I'll zoom in a bit with 2, like so. And because we want to connect back to up here, you just hold on Alt and you'll see it come up as a C, a little C. It looks like this. It basically means you're gonna attach this to this. So I'm just gonna hold on Alt and drag this back. And I'm gonna hold on Alt and break this towards that. And so what we have now is something that all the points kind of move independently. So now with the envelope deformer, we have control like this. We can do that and that and that and that and stuff. Our only problem is going to be that we can't move all these points at once. So the only way to do that is to make a peg for it. So Control P on that deformation, and we are basically done. The only thing left is anything that does not have a parent will have one peg controlling everything. So we'll basically have a peg that controls all of our character. So here we go, saving as we go. So the thigh, the torso, I guess after you're done, you just want to work on your layering just to make sure everything's good. I will just hide the skirt for now, just to test some stuff. So we have this leg here. Okay, that works, it seems. All right, good. So to add a peg, we'll just click in here, press Control P, and typically what people label this one is the master peg. So master dash P and close. And so everything that does not have a child will have a somewhere peg as a master. The only thing that we haven't done yet though is the parenting of the arms to the torso. So that same kinematic output that we have before, we just attach that to the arms as well because it's part of the upper body. Arm here and the other arm somewhere over there. So kinematic output from the torso, this kinematic output is going to go to the arm, the neck, and the other arm. So you'll notice this one has 3 children. And this is going to be in charge of the torso, the thigh, the other thigh, and the skirt peg. And we just set this peg, we'll set its pivot point with the transform tools up here. You want to just put it somewhere where it rotates well in case there's any rotation, but we won't need it. So that's pretty much it for rigging this character. You click on the master peg, we can move everything one place, and just set the pivot point for that too by clicking on the pivot with the translate tool, and we're good. And so that is a rig. If you have any questions, you can come see me in class. Like, share, subscribe.
Assistance.
Yeah, like and subscribe.
Assistance.
Close.
Assistance.
I'm coming.
I called this from before, no fair.
No, no. You're like way ahead of me. Go sit down. Yeah.
Way ahead, that's